first thing I would like to discuss is your first space ride, when it was actually the European Space Agency mission. How it was different from what we have today, because back then we didn't even have European module, science module on the ISS. It was totally different environment. If you could explain to our readers how it looked like.
So indeed, my first mission was in 2002. It was actually a very similar mission than this one, because it was of course implemented with our Russian colleagues and with the Soyuz spacecraft, but it was also funded by the Belgian Space Policy Office. The mission itself, a little bit like here, the mission is also sponsored by Poland. Of course, the International Space Station was very different. Yeah, the mission itself, it was 2 weeks. A lot of science crammed into 2 weeks, and a lot of hard work for me on board of the ISS, but we did not have all the facilities. We did not have the cupola, for example, to take beautiful pictures from our planet. The communications with the ground were much more difficult at that moment as well. We did not have all the channels that we have today to use the ground. There was no email on orbit. We did not have all the science equipment to do all the science that we could do. Of course, we did science, but in a very different environment than what is possible today.
Okay, so communication was through radio, basically, when you were communicating with the ground. It was no mail, so it was not text messaging, only radio, right?
So indeed, the communications that we had in 2002 was only through either the Russian radio station with UHF, and only for very small times where you were over the Russian segment, because we implemented the mission with our Russian counterparts, or with the space to ground. That was then only 2 channels that were available for the entire space station. While today we have 4 channels available for the entire space station. You have email, you can also have access to the internet, you can have 2-way video communication as well if needed. So the communication capabilities of the space station is really totally different than was there in 2002.
Okay, so you become the first European astronaut to command International Space Station back in 2009. How different is experience from going, because you have the context, going through the long duration mission to this short duration one? What are the challenges with the short duration mission compared to these long ones?
Well, the short duration space mission you can compare to a sprint. Yeah, you are completely, I would say, excited. You want to start, you want to run quickly, and you will also finish quickly, because okay, it's 100 meters and you have to deliver. Yeah, you don't have time even to recover. You have to go. While a long duration space mission is more like a marathon. You don't need to start extremely fast. You need to pace yourself. You need to make sure that you reach the finish in a good condition as well. And so that's really the best analogy that we can give. Slavoj here in this mission will have a lot of things to do. Every single day he will be extremely busy. And you can keep this for a certain while. Your brain, our brain capacity as human beings are capable of doing this, because we are excited, we have adrenaline, we are driven by the results. However, we cannot maintain the same rhythm for 6 months. Our brain, our body will reduce its energy, and it's not possible to sustain this. So you need to have certain breaks. You need to have the weekends off. You need to have a little bit of slower rhythm at a certain time. The challenges, of course, is in the short mission to really be able to deliver everything that you need, and in this high intensity mode, not to make mistakes, to really be very concentrated every single day. For the long duration mission, it's of course the fact that every task that you need to do, you also need to stay very much concentrated. Even if it's the 4th or the 5th time that you do the same task, you still have to do it well, you still have to execute, and you still have to stay motivated throughout this 6 months mission for all the tasks that you need to do.
Yeah, and basically you can, when some experiments, for example, fail, you can wait, and with long duration it's possible to... Because I remember that you were doing some kind of glove box experiment with glove box facility back in 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was like there was failure with this.
Nanoslab.
Yeah, you already know what was the reason, because I remember that with the interview back then when you returned, you didn't know.
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. So indeed, when we did the nanoslab experiment in 2002 in the microscience glove box. That experiment failed, unfortunately. It was the only one that failed in the entire mission. So it was still a very good result. One experiment failed out of 20. And the reason at the end, what was discovered, because we brought eventually the box back, is that during the launch, because of the vibration, one of the boards got loose in the computer. And then, of course, when you have a computer board that is not functioning correctly, the experiment does not work.
Yeah. Okay, so many young member states, for the European Space Agency, dream to have their own flag missions to the station. And as someone who flew as a Belgian to space, can you give some advice to Poland, to Polish media, for example, how we can bring this awareness around the Ignis mission, so that we can achieve objectives regarding to outreach to STEM, science? What would be your advice from your experience as a...
Well, I think a mission like this will automatically bring a lot of attention to the citizens of Poland. Then, of course, it's not enough to just do the mission, because that will create a hype, but then you have to sustain afterwards. What we did in Belgium, of course, is that we had a very big program afterwards, where we went to schools, talked to children. We're also on national television with a number of science programs. Still today we do this. In Belgium, for example, we have a very big science festival that is called Nerdland. It's really to say, okay, young children that are nerds, that love science, that love maths, that are in all this technology, they are also great, and it's also fun to do that. Our astronauts go there. I was there in Nerdland last year, and I gave a speech for more than 1,000 kids talking about space and the effects of space. So it's really a sustained effort. It's not just one single thing that you can do. You really need to sustain the effort and stay in the public. But in general, what we see is that kids, but also adults, are very interested in space. They are very interested in what we do on board of the International Space Station.
Yeah, and as a former head of European Astronauts Center, how the training evolved when we back, for example, from the Expedition 21, when you took part, how this training changed throughout the years?
So what we are doing now is we much more focus on, I would say, the hands-on training. Certainly in the beginning, in 2002, there was a lot of theoretical training that as an astronaut you could, and it was also possible because the space station was small, you could go into the details of every little system. Today this is not possible anymore. The space station is so big, there are so many computers, so many systems on board of the space station that you cannot really learn everything anymore. On the other hand, what you need to have is to have the skills to execute the procedures if something goes wrong, to be able to make repairs. And so we have moved a little bit from just pure theoretical training a lot more skill-based hands-on training, so that the astronaut has the capability to execute the experiments that he needs to do.
And last question about the experiments that we have during the Ignis mission. How, in your opinion, we should measure the success of the mission? Because you talked about 20 experiments that you did during this short duration mission. So is like the completion percentage very important? Or, for example, the number of scientific papers we will get from this? What is the measure of success for this kind of missions?
I think the measure of success are a number of factors. One that you mentioned is the number of experiments that were concluded or that were executed correctly. It's certainly a measure of success. You cannot say that you have a successful mission if only 50% of your experiments have worked. Yeah? I think you need to have something like 80 or 90%. This is what we strive for in the European Space Agency, and I hope that we can also achieve this on this mission. But then, of course, it's not only the execution of the experiments, it's also what the scientists afterwards do with the data, how they exploit the data, how they can make papers out of it, and how this will lead to the next experiment. This is also very important, because what we do in science is gradually build up knowledge. Today it's not like one science experiment is going to change the world. No, you build knowledge, and from that knowledge you do something else, and another scientist has an idea, and we go another part, and we build the knowledge together, all together, in a way. So what is the next step after this mission? What is the science, the knowledge that we have gained, how we will translate this into the next experiments and the next science that we will do.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know, we have a very active, how is we call that in English, Volkssterrenwacht. Amateur, it's amateur group that teaches kids about looking to the stars and things like that. So it's an observatory, yeah, and they go around the world. Sometimes for solar eclipses, they make their own telescopes, but it's in local community, so it's not funded by the government. It's not officially. It's our local groups, and they are called Urania.
Ah,
And they are the biggest one from Belgium, and they have an excellent outreach program.